Every country wants more trade, more exports, more investments, more jobs, more economic growth. But very few people ask the question that's underneath all of these goals. How does money actually move?
The dollar liquidity infrastructure for global commerce.
Every country wants more trade, more exports, more investments, more jobs, more economic growth. But very few people ask the question that's underneath all of these goals. How does money actually move? To facilitate the transactions, because a country can produce oil, gold, cocoa, coffee, or lithium. But if moving the money is slow or expensive or difficult, it affects the economy too. I've spent years guiding businesses in import, export trades when moving money across borders. And one thing that became very clear to me is countries don't just compete with products anymore. They compete with payment infrastructure. That's why governments around the world are beginning to pay attention to digital payment infrastructures like stablecoins. Not because of crypto activities, but because of the competitiveness. Africa is entering a very interesting period. The African continental free trade area is expanding, and so is the is PAPS, the Pan-African Payment Systems. So countries are modernizing their payment systems. An example is in Nigeria, where payment system vision, where they launched the new payment system vision 2028. Central banks are studying digital currencies. Governments are investing in digital identity to reduce fraud. Digital commerce is growing rapidly at the same time. The rest of the world is also modernizing what we know currently as money. How money moves, and how money is changing. Money and payments are becoming fully digital. And so here's the question. Will Africa help build that infrastructure or simply use infrastructure built somewhere else? That's a completely different conversation. Let me give you an example. Nigeria exports oil. Ghana exports cocoa. Zambia exports copper. Botswana exports diamonds. The Democratic Republic of Congo exports cobalt. Almost every one of those exports is priced in US dollars. Yet, those countries usually don't control the infrastructure that moves those dollar payments. The payment may pass through London, New York, several correspondent banks, several compliance checks, several intermediaries, each adding time, fees. And when you think about it, a payment can take 3 to 5 business days to settle. And businesses can lose thousands, if not millions of dollars through fees and foreign exchange rate spreads before the money even arrives. Now, it's important to understand something. Correspondent banking wasn't a mistake. It's actually solved a real problem 40, 50, 60 years ago. Even, countries had different banking systems. There was no internet back then or no blockchain. and there wasn't any real-time global communication back then. And banks needed trusted relationships to move money across borders. So correspondent banking became the best solution available. It helped build the modern international trade. But here is the challenge: global trade has evolved much faster than the infrastructure that settles payments today. So it's like asking yesterday's technology to power tomorrow's economy. I mean, that's impossible. So, and think about what happened with communication. Letters used to pass through several post offices. Sometimes they took weeks to arrive, but today you can just send an email and it reaches the other side of the world almost instantly. International calling cards of VoIP calling apps like Skype, Boss Revolution were not bad, but WhatsApp is global and simplify. So stablecoins are introducing a similar shift for payments. They are a new national currency, but global by design. And they are not replacing central bank money. They are new settlement infrastructure, digital dollars, digital money that moves across blockchain networks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 or 366 days a year, just like email moves across the internet. So it changes how money moves internationally. And this is why governments around the world are paying close attention. Not because they want to trade cryptocurrency or want citizens to be trading in cryptocurrency, but because they want better payment infrastructure and more efficient cross-border payment systems. The United States now has legislation for payment stablecoins, the Genius Act. The European Union has MiCA. Nigeria released its payment system vision 2028 and mentioned using blockchain technology as part of the technology. PAPS continues to expand across African countries. Central banks around the world are expanding and leveraging digital settlements. Also, the Bank of England recently launched a policy statement and draft rules on regulating stablecoins. So you can notice how the conversation has changed. It has moved from should we to how do we implement this safely? And that's a very important difference. Here's the question I believe every policy maker should be asking. As Latin America businesses trade more with each other, as African businesses trade more with each other, as um, African businesses trade more with Caribbean businesses, exports continues to grow. And as millions more people enter the formal financial systems, who will provide the infrastructure that moves that value? Will it be built in Africa? Will it be built in Latin America or imported from somewhere else? Because infrastructure shapes economies for decades. Just like roads, ports, electricity does. Payments infrastructure does too. So after spending years, working in cross-border payments, I don't believe Africa's biggest challenge is technology. In fact, many African countries already have some of the fastest domestic payment systems in the world. The bigger challenge begins when money has to cross borders. Today, technologies like blockchain and stablecoins have made faster global settlements possible. making it possible to easily access US dollars, send payments across borders, receive payments from international suppliers, investors, partners, and earning on capital balances, which provide for a better treasury management. Digital wallets make it possible to receive, send, and hold digital money in any currency securely. So the real challenge now is building that trusted infrastructure that connects global businesses, banks, governments, and citizens to that technology safely and compliantly. That's the work ahead, and that's the conversation I believe matters most. As you can see, this series isn't really about stablecoins or cryptocurrencies. It's about understanding how money is changing. It's about emerging markets, Southeast Asia, Latin America, Africa, helping to shape that future instead of simply reacting to it. In the coming episodes, I will explain to you how different industries, from investment funds, commodity traders, to manufacturers and people globally, are beginning to use this new financial infrastructure. Because once you understand how money is moving differently, you begin to understand where the world is going, and how you can also participate in it. So follow this series and let's begin to learn together.
The dollar liquidity infrastructure for global commerce.